In this past Monday's gospel, in the Gospel of St. John, we read a story of an official whose son had fallen ill. And because he was ill to the point of death, the official sought out Jesus. He heard Jesus was near, and he went to go find him that he might heal and cure his son. When he comes to Jesus and invites him back to his house that he might come and touch and heal his son, he doesn't come, but Jesus simply says, "Go, your son will live." So the man believes Jesus. He goes back home. And we know that there must have been some time passed here, a couple of days, because it says that when he ran into his servants and they told him, in fact, his son was healed and he's alive and well, he asked them when this happened. And they told him it was at the 7th hour yesterday. And that's the same hour at which Jesus said those words, "Go, your son will live." The story then ends with saying that this is the second sign that Jesus performed. It actually begins with reminding us of what that first sign is, which is the miracle of the wedding at Cana, where Jesus turned the water into wine. First of all, what is a sign? It's a miracle that St. John talks about in his Gospels, but a little bit more than that. It's a miracle that tells us something about who Jesus is. So that first sign at the wedding of Cana, Jesus begins his ministry with that sign at a wedding in order to tell us something unique about him in his ministry, that he is the bridegroom to his bride, the church. So what is this sign telling us about Jesus? Well, let's look at a few facts in this story. We see that when the father runs into his servants and he asks them, when did this happen? And they said it's at the 7th hour, it's about 1 p.m. He recognizes that that is the hour that Jesus told him yesterday, "Go, your son will live." The father knows the hour. If we look at this story, instead of just an official and his son, but the father in this story being God the Father, and the son in this story being God the Son, the Father knows the hour. In the Gospels of Matthew and Mark, we read that only God knows the hour at which the Son will come. Jesus says, "Go, your son will live." Usually when Jesus is performing a healing miracle, he likes to touch the person that he's healing, to actually lay hands on him. As he did with the man born blind, he put clay on the man's eyes. He wanted to encounter him personally. But he tells us that he does this from a distance. And the official believed him and he goes. But why this distance? Why this separation? We know that the Father and the Son are separated in this story because we read that when the official is going back home, it's a day later from the time Jesus said these words that he encounters his servants, probably about halfway home. And so there's probably a 2-day journey between his home and when he encountered Jesus. There's this separation when his son is on his deathbed, the time when you most want to be near your loved ones. But the father recognizes that the only way he can heal his son, to save him in this moment, is to be separated from him. And we see this in Christ on the cross when he utters the words, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Which we also know is the opening line to Psalm 22. And if we continue to read that psalm, what else we see is, "Lord, you are not far off." It's a psalm that ends with the Father recognizing, hearing the cry of his people and saving them, delivering them. It's not one that ends with despair and desolation. When God entered humanity, he did this so that he could feel all of the emotions, good or bad, that we feel. from a first-hand experience. He felt that separation most profoundly between the Father and the Son on the cross. A quote by John Randolph Price that says, "The biggest problem you have in this life is the belief that you are separated from your source. Solve that problem and all others will vanish." Because the reality is we are not separated from our source. We are not separated from God, that He is not far off. He is with us through it all. He is in the boat weathering the storm. But we can unite that suffering of separation with Him, because suffering is the one thing that unites all of humanity. We don't all prosper in this life, but we all suffer to one degree or another. So take those feelings of isolation and separation into your prayer and into your meditation from those things and those people that you yearn most to be reconnected to, so that you can be conscious of what it is you love most and unite it with Christ in His passion when He was betrayed and abandoned and denied by those closest to Him. So feel that sorrow and bond with Him so that you can grow closer and deeper in your relationship with Christ.